Hello, Kerbalnauts, and welcome to Mining the Man and More, episode 11. Well, here we are in the VAB where we left off. We tested this rover and we're going to send this to the man. This is our main base of operations that we're going to be sending, and it will dock the mining facilities to it after they've obtained ore. It'll be processed and then shipped off to space somewhere. However, while we need to land it. So by here I'm building a landing facility. I've got struts on decouplers, and basically I'm going to attach engines to the top of it over the center of mass and use that to land. So while we're doing that, I want to pose questions to you. What is the future of our mining operation? Well, there's a couple of options for our long-term goals. I'm thinking we could go to Duna, mine its moon Ike. I don't think it'd be efficient to mine Duna itself because, well, you've got an atmosphere on Duna, and, well, you know, the troubles of launching through an atmosphere. It'll be much more efficient to mine Moon Ike because it's got lower gravity and hopefully a lot of cheddar, a lot of ore. However, someone's also suggested we capture an asteroid, build a base around it, and I think you can also mine an asteroid. There won't be much ore on it, but I think you can. So yes, that's the second option. We need a third option. Oh yes, an idea came to me. What if we swap out the Kerbals with some of your guys' names, or names that's of your choosing? Right by here, I'm trying to balance the fuel with the ore between the engines, so the center of mass is between the engines, so they land us safely. Now, the center of mass will shift once we start using fuel, so something to remember when we're going to take this up. But back to the missions. The 3 missions, 2 long-term missions, either mining Ike, that's orbiting Duna, or we can capture an asteroid. So choose one of them. And for a short-term goal, we could start swapping out the Kerbals that are on the man. Perhaps with your guys' names, or suggest to me what names you want to put in there. But if you have any suggestions, put them in the comments below, but put a hashtag in front of them so I can filter them out in the comment section. For the missions to the Duna, put hashtag Duna mining or something like that. And for the asteroid, put hashtag asteroid. So yes, what are the missions? I was also thinking of adding mods. Now, some of you say, you don't like mods, it's fair enough. Some of you say that, mods are okay. That's good enough as well. So what I plan to do is add at least one mod for the time being. It's called ScanSat. We can use that to scan for anomalies, and we can do side missions if we find anomalies. Anomalies are Easter eggs left by the developers, which we can find, like the Neil Armstrong monument and stuff like that. The Moon Arch. I have no idea where they are. I've never actually gone out of my way to look for them. So I'm going to add ScanSat, we can scan the moon, and we can also add finding anomalies as a side mission as well. But side missions aside, we have to go on launches into space. Well, onto the man anyway. And you can see here, I'm using MechJeb, and the reason was, there's a very good reason. I had a head cold. And if any of you had a head cold, you would know that your brain feels sluggish, you don't feel like your enthusiasm is drained. So here I was built that rover, I was feeling stressed out. Oh, well, you know the feeling. Anyway, this is going to be a long launch, so let's speed the video up to save time, and I can talk about version 1.1. I'm quite looking forward to that because they've upgraded to Unity 5, and there's quite a few updates to the game as well, which they're also adding. Oh, look, something's going wrong. We've, oh dear. We seem to have lost the connection between... Yep, that's what I thought. And... That is an awesome explosion. I knew it was coming, but... I was stalling for time talking about version 1.1, but it's still amazing. And that rocket is still going up. I thought I'd watch it for a bit to see if it would actually get into space. It's tilted a bit far over, and we haven't gotten not enough altitude in our apoapsis. It's burning up. You can see the struts are gone in the bottom. I was wondering if that was the problem, that's why we lost control. But I did have MechJeb controlling it, which means that, things do go wrong. Especially if you're using automation tools and you're not keeping an eye on it. But yes, I had a head cold. I thought this would be good footage. And will it disintegrate? I'm waiting for it to burn up. And yay! Well, it didn't burn up, but we did have our explosion. Anyway, back to the launch. And yes, I'm using MechJeb again. Head cold, fully in swing. So let's fast forward this as fast as we can. Get us up into orbit and onto the moon. Anyway, let's talk about version 1.1. Let me get rid of the previous screen. I can bring up the notes from the developers. Well, version 1.1 is revolutionary because they're using now Unity 5. Unity 5 has been released and they wanted to upgrade the game, and they had to do the entire code, well, not a complete rewrite, but they had to do complete rewriting for it to work with Unity 5. And they did find problems with things like the wheels and everything else. However, they have finished upgrading it. And what does that mean? Well, Unity 5 uses something called PhysX. And basically, that enables the game engine to use more than one core for the physics of the game. And that's handy because one of the major things with Kerbal Space Program is because of Unity 4, I think it's using now, it only uses one core to calculate the physics in the game. And the problem with that is it slows it down, especially if you have a high part count. So now it can distribute it across the cores of multi-core processors. Then it will increase the speed of the game. So then hopefully it'll just be graphics that will reduce the speed of the game. And I'm going to upgrade my graphics card sometime soon when I get the money. So what else have they added? They've added more spaceplane parts, and what I'm looking forward to is the space shuttle main engines. They've added them to the game. That means I can make a space shuttle with the correct engines. They've also added the cargo ramp. They've revamped the Mark 1 cockpit. They've also added new jet engines, as well as one which looks like that belongs onto a jumbo jet. But what else have they added? Well, they've added antenna diversity and probes, and they've also added a new mechanic to the game, and that is communication or control of your vessel. The new antennas will add the function of being able to communicate with space probes and using that to control them. I think with manned spacecraft it'll be the same, however you'll have to set up a communication network. And for those of you worrying about it, don't worry, you can disable that and you can play the game as normal, so then you don't need a communication network. But there's also some other game mechanic called contextual contracts, and what that means is, say you've set up a space station, orbiting Duna, you can get a contract will say, well, this is in the wrong orbit, you need to adjust its orbit, and you get points and money for that contract. Or you could be asked to demolish it to make way for a hyperspace bypass. And there's also a note on there saying localization. Read it out actually. Lastly, we're planning on adding the framework for localization into the next update, paving the way for implementing localized versions of KSP. But more on that later. Now I'm not sure, I haven't read anything further on that. I don't know if they've added further notes. But is that something to do with multiplayer? Oh, I do hope so. That would be awesome. Some people in the comments asked for that update on what was coming in version 1.1, so I thought, yeah, why not include it? And what I'm looking forward to in that is mainly the upgrade to version 1.1, the upgrade to Unity 5, which means we got the physics core. That means you can have larger ships. I think when I'm flying this right now, as we're trying to get in orbit around the man, or I think this might be the landing spot. Yeah, we're going to land. And we just run out of fuel. So we have to stage this and use the main landing engines. But yes, what I'm looking forward to is the physics, which means we can use multiple cores and this will speed up the gameplay. I think at the moment I'm running at 17 frames per second. It's only because there's quite a few parts by here and they're all trying to work together, because we're deorbiting. Although I do also like the idea of the space shuttle engines. So I may modify my space shuttle, which I created in those 2 episodes, to use them. However, we have to upgrade to version 1.1, and I hope this game works in it. Or I'm not sure, we'll find out when we get there. Anyway, we have to carry on, we have to go and land this. But this is quite slow, so let's fast forward to the actual landing part. Because I'm sure you know how to land by now, don't you? What I did forget to mention about this as well, as you can see the nav ball, I'm pointing at one of the normal or anti-normal. And that's because I did not put a probe core pointing up on the rover. It's because we're using the capsule on the front of the rover that we have to point it at a weird angle so those engines will work properly. Oh dear. Misengineering. And what are we doing? We're spinning. Okay. So there's me. I'm trying to get control of this. I hope it's just a one-off glitch. No, we're spinning out of control. There's me trying to keep control of it. Come on, can we get back into control of this? I can't see where it's going to head now. And I suppose you can. But we're going to give this last ditch effort. Yep. However, we're now spinning sideways. Now, someone mentioned before that this could be due to the fuel ducts. I'm not sure, it could be. Well, possibly be, but we're spinning out of control, and this happened to me before. There's no real reason or rhyme that we have to be spinning in that direction. So I think it's a game bug. Hopefully the version 1.1 update will fix this, because they had to recode a lot of it. And yay! Destruction. Well, I suppose this is the best girl way to test things out, is by flying a mission and watch it fail. However, I am not sad that that's been destroyed, because it gives me a chance of re-engineering it, engineering a rover. And I decided, after looking online, looking at people's designs, that's something small. We could have mini miners, and they could all dock up to one place, one station, one lander or something, and then we can process the fuel or whatever else. So here we are. I've seen this similar design like this, where we have the small rocket parts and we just add girders to the side, where we can then attach the wheels. And in all intents and purposes, this is a good design. It also means that the part count will be lower, which means that we'll have a faster running video. I won't have to spend there watching, 8 frames per second. So yes, now adding the wheels. Now I do remember from our last tests that putting the wheels on these radial mountings is a much better idea. It gives it strength for the wheels. Now I'm not sure if it's just me, it may have been just that the girders I was originally attaching it to were angled, but here I'm going to make sure that everything's right. Because if we attach it to the girders here, the wheels will be straight on. And yes, I do struggle trying to get them all level, but there's markings on those radial parts that we can easily do so. Now, this is the first iteration of our mini miner. And you see we got a docking port on the rear. We're going to have to line that up with some kind of base docking. And that'll be easier than transferring it the other way we did last time, which was trying to dock a spacecraft on top of another one. And that was difficult because when you're in a gravity field, the gravity will pull you down and, well, cause problems. Let's just put it that way. If you've watched episode, was it 9 and 10? I can't remember now. But let's go back to this design. I've added ore tanks on the side, larger ore tanks, and put solar panels for the power, so we can power the mining. There's also some radiators on there to dissipate any heat generated by the miner. And right now I'm building a landing system. Again, yes, rockets at weird angles. And it always works so well for me, these landing systems. So why not give it another go? Oh, by the way guys, someone has been asking where are the URLs for downloading these craft. Now I started using SourceForge, so I upload them to there, and I was going to make them available for you guys to download and use at your own discretion. Well, I'm going to have to find something else to do with that. But don't despair, because I will make them available. I may put them on my Google Drive or something for you guys to download. And sorry I haven't replied to your comments, it's just because I can't reply to your comments. It's disabled on your account somehow. Right, let's go test this. And in fact, let's test it on the man. Now a quick bit of testing on the launch pad. And we don't have the thrust to weight ratio to test this on the curving, so I use HyperEdit, and let's go to the man. And the reason is because there's no better place to test it other than the man. Now I'm going to count this as my simulation. So yes, some of you may moan this is cheating, but this is for testing the craft, and sometimes I do use this, especially when I'm using a brand new design like this Rover. If it was something I knew that had worked in the past, I would build it and test it on Kerbal and then launch it. And do the mission. So we're just going to count this as a simulation. Anyway, let's get this on the ground and then we can get testing. Okay, let's get testing. Thrust up. All we need to do is get this up to a little height and see if these engines will actually land it. Oh, too much. No worries, we can get up to this. We've landed on the man before. It has enough thrust to weight ratio, which is good. However, it's lacking in control, and that wobbliness is not good. We've landed on the back end. Okay, can we get out of that? Now I'm feeling that we don't have enough torque in the capsule. We could add a reaction wheel to help control. RCS thrusters would also help, but that means we need RCS tanks. Oh, come full thrust. Excellent destruction. So how are we going to fix this? Well, first off, let's add that reaction wheel I was talking about. And we'll also add engines underneath. This will give us more control. That means we can get these engines directly under the center of mass, so the center of thrust is over the center of mass. However, that is not all. I've decided we'll add rear-facing engines, and the idea of that is it'll give us extra boost. We can use this like a normal rocket, and just before we go to land, we'll kill our velocity with those engines and then land it with those radial engines. However, those engines don't look right on there, so these radial engines are perfect for the job. All we have to do is attach a fuel duct to them, and hey presto, Now, I don't think I've shown you guys how to use the action groups. Well, it's very simple. Click on the action group button, and then you select the 1 to 9, or 1 to 0, 1 to 10, whatever you call them, and that's your number key button. Right, so you click on one of them, you click on the engine, and what I want here is to activate and deactivate the engines. So for the number 3, I want the bottom engines to shut down, and then I want the rear engines to activate. Just select the part, click on the action that you want to be performed by that number key, and hey presto, you've got it set up. Now number 4 is going to be the opposite. They're going to activate the rear engines while shutting down the bottom engines. Sorry, the other way around. I'm going to activate the bottom engines while shutting down the rear engines. So let's go and test this anyway. So here we are again on the MUN simulation. Bottom engines are simulated correctly. The center of mass is where we want it to be. However, we have to remember to switch between the capsule and the probe body to get the nav all correct. And the action groups are working correctly as well. We've changed to the bottom engines. Just to make sure now the center of mass is working correct in them. Well, they're not spinning out of control. That's a good start. Okay, all we have to do now is... the plan is we'll kill our velocity now with these rear engines. A bit too much. I think by here I was trying to make sure I wasn't going to land on a crater or something. But let's change it out to a low enough for to perform a landing. Make sure the capsule's selected as control point. And we're coming down. Will we make it? That's the question. Okay, getting that control center on the retrograde vector is a little harder, it seems, in this configuration. But it's working. And we've landed! Ladies and gentlemen, this design is working. Anyway, I'm sorry for this lack of content, but I had a head cold. So I'm gonna say like, subscribe, or whatever else. I'm Orbator. Trust me, I'm an engineer.